welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup and Fude brushes. Today we are actually talking about makeup brushes other than just Fude, but we are going to be going over which brushes I reach for the most for cream makeup products. Now, this is not going to include just foundation. As a matter of fact, we're only going to briefly touch on foundation brushes. I have a separate video with foundation brushes if you're interested in that. But we're going to be looking at cream makeup products. I don't know about you guys, but during the summer, I really love wearing cream blush, cream highlight, cream eyeshadow, and things like that. So today we are going to be looking at the brushes that I use the most for that and why. So let's go ahead and start off first with my recommendation for a set. If you are looking for a set of brushes that, all synthetic that you can use with creams, powders, and liquids, my recommendation would actually be the Esom V Series set. This is one of the eye brushes from it. You can see that these are long in comparison to like a Sonia G brush. You can see how much longer these are. This is their newest synthetic brush line from Esom. They're all synthetic fibers. The V is for vegan. They have eye brushes, face brushes, and so forth. And you're going to see quite a few of these throughout today's video. So I reach for the eye brushes quite a bit. And then I also reach for some of the other brushes in this series. So actually the ones that I use the most from this series are actually going to be eye brushes. So we have the V34, which is a larger like crease brush style, and then we have the V33, which is a little bit smaller. Now, one thing that's different about these compared to a traditional crease brush, you can see that these are pretty flat on the top. So you're not going to have that gradation of length of hairs going up to round it, which in my opinion works better for cream products because you're able to kind of buff that product in. I use these for, if I'm using a cream shadow, whether I put it on with my finger or whatever, I like to kind of buff the crease area a little bit with these. So I've got the bigger and smaller versions of these. And then these are two more eyeshadow brushes from the series that I really like. So this is the V27. And you can see that this one, it doesn't have a ton of flex or give. This is going to work really well for any cream products or liquid products with a thinner consistency. So I will use this for the lower lash line. I'll also use this to kind of paint on more liquidy shadows. For example, if I'm using something like a liquid eyeshadow, like the Chanel Ombre Premier Locks, I will put that on and then use this to kind of smooth that out. And then whatever's left, I'll use on the lower lash line. Another one that I use a lot is the V31. I like this, again, lower lash line. And for inner corner, this is also great if you want to get like an accent color in the outer V or whatever, but you can see that this one actually is going to be a little bit tapered, okay? But it's still going to, not have a ton of flex. It's kind of in between the V27 in flexibility and the V33. And you can basically use this if you want something a little bit firmer to apply product in a small detailed area. Face brush that I use a lot from them is actually going to be the V50. This is an angled cheek brush. You can use this for foundation or whatever also, but for me, I like to use this for cream contour or bronzer and cream blush. And that's primarily what I use this for. You can see this one has a lot of flex and give. So if you have a formula that doesn't, it's a thinner formula, something that doesn't need a ton of buffing, then I think this brush is really great for that. So also if I'm working with a thicker product, for example, the new Chanel Tan de Soleil bronzer, I like to get just a little bit on the brush directly from the pot and then brush that out. So I'm not getting too much of a product on here and I get kind of like that softer washed look. And yeah, so if you wanted to pick a set, the Esom V series would be my recommendation. Regardless, these individual brushes are also fantastic and some of my most reached for cream products. While we're talking about Esom, I also wanted to introduce the T47. So this is T as in Tom, And this brush you can see is going to be a bit more dense. This one I like to use for bronzer and contour specifically. You can use it for blush, but for me, because of the density of it, I really, and the shape, you know, it fits really well for contour bronzer. You can also use this for foundation, and I like this one specifically for more serum style foundations. Anything thicker in consistency, I usually like a different brush, but the thinner serum consistencies like the Chanel Sublimage or another Chanel, the Le Beige Healthy Glow, Cogando Aqua, you know, anything that has that thinner, runny consistency, this is a great brush for that, in my opinion. Now, while we are touching on foundation, one of my newest brushes is this one here. This is the Chikuhodo PF-4. It's a little puff brush, and I like this for foundation, but the reason I wanted to include this, and I have a couple other foundation brushes here. This is the Chikuhodo buffing brush. I really like to use these for foundation, and then after foundation, I use them to kind of buff out any cream products that I'm using to kind of give like that seamless blend between shades. So I will apply my blush if I'm tapping it on with my fingers or whatever, a contour, bronzer, or whatever. Then I like to kind of just go over the edges with my foundation brush. And I find that these two work very well for that. So you can see this is a dense puffer. This is going to be undyed goat hair. The Chikuhodo here is synthetic, also very dense. You can see that they are similar in flexibility. The Chikuhodo has a little bit more give than the Chikuhodo PF-4. So I do that primarily with any foundation brush I'm using for the day. Today, I actually use the Chikuhodo Fupa or the F04 now, another one that I love to just kind of finish off the edges with. But sometimes I want to use a foundation brush and I want to apply the foundation and I'm not really in the mood to clean my brushes. So I want to use one brush for everything. One of the brushes I reach for that is actually the Surratt foundation brush. And I've talked about this before. This is an angled brush. You can kind of see, but it's actually like stippling. You've got two lengths of fibers. You've got some that go here and then some that are a little bit longer. This brush is a little scratchy, but I find for anything with a more liquidy consistency, this works great. It applies the foundation very well. And if you're using something that doesn't require like a ton of buffing, the scratchiness doesn't bother me. But one of the reasons I really like this is the size. So if I'm just using this for foundation, I personally usually prefer a larger foundation brush. I want to kind of do it quickly. But if I'm looking for one brush to do everything on my face, so I don't have so much to clean, this is a great brush. So I will use this to apply my foundation. And then sometimes I'll wipe it off. Sometimes I won't, depending on, you know, what look I'm going for. If I want something a little bit softer with contour, bronze, cheek products, all of that, then I won't wipe it off. But what I'll do then is I will use this brush for my, first I'll do contour or bronzer, and then I will add in like blush with that. And everything just blends seamlessly or smoothly. And you can see because of this size, it actually works really well in all of those areas. So it's a great brush to use for like essentially your whole face look. Two more brushes that I can do pretty much anything on my face with would be this one here. This is just Chikuhodo T11. And again, I like to use this with thinner consistency foundations or tinted moisturizers. And then I like to use this for bronzer, contour, you know, any of those cream products. I could use it for blush, but I typically don't. So again, the Surratt one is going to be for everything, whereas this one is a little bit more limited. And then this is actually one of the Omnia Gold brushes. Sorry, it's still a little wet. I just washed it. But this is going to be the, what's this called? The stippler brush. So it's the BOM 32. And I have to look it up and see, but I believe we've got undyed goat hair mixed with synthetic fibers. So I think these longer ones here are synthetic. This, again, works well for thinner consistency foundations. And then I think this works really well to, like, I'll use this for cream blush. I'll like kind of pinch this together to apply it. and then loosen it up to get more of that soft wash color. It's a little bit too big for me for contour and bronzer, but I can kind of buff out the edges with it. So these are two other ones that I like to use. But again, they're not going to be for necessarily everything on the face. I do have a slightly smaller head shape. So, you know, for some people, these might work better for everything. All right, moving on to two brushes specifically that I like to use for cream, bronzers, and contour products. That's going to be the Rephr 24. So this is a larger one. I really love this for bronzer. I actually use it a lot for powder bronzer, but sometimes I'll also use this for cream products. And then the Rephr 04, which is an angled cheek brush. Again, I really like this size for contouring. And so I'll use this for contouring, sometimes for bronzer. I'll also use this for blush. So I like that for all of that. This one specifically I like for bronzer. Now, looking specifically at cream blush products, I really love these like smaller foundation style brushes. So this one here is the Rephr 17. And then this is the Chikuhodo T3. They're technically foundation brushes, but I think they're perfect for blending out cream blush. So I like to use these with any of those cream stick blushes like the Westman Atelier. I also think that these fit perfectly into little pots. Like for example, this is the Clé de Peau cream bronzer or cream blush. And look at the Rephr 17, how well that fits in. And then here's the Chikuhodo T3. It's essentially the perfect size for the opening here. So these I really love for cream blush products. Again, you can use them for bronzer and contour. I personally just prefer other brushes for these. So I'll use these for cream blush. Another one that I like is this Fude brush from Chikuhodo. I think it's the F07. I'll double check that, but it's the mini version of my favorite foundation brush. So this is the F04 and this is the mini version of it. And again, if you're looking at the tops of these, it's kind of right in between the two sizes here. So it also fits perfectly in the little pots as well. So I love all of these. Now also for some of the firmer cream cheek products, I do like the Westman Atelier Baby Blender Brush. I bought this and I was like, there's no way this is gonna work well for blush, you know, it's so small, but actually when you have a firmer consistency product, such as the Westman Atelier blush sticks, this actually blends out the edges very nicely. And I like this one for cream highlighting products. I think this is great for that. So this is the Baby Blender from Westman Atelier. Again, this will be for blush and highlight. Sometimes when I'm working with cream or liquid blush products, I want a softer brush, like not softer, but like you know, a little bit more movement. I want something that's going to give me a softer wash. And for that, I'm reaching for different style brushes. So these here are from Katie Jane Hughes and Spectrum. These are the two stippling brushes. I think these work really well with thinner consistency products such as the the Daniel Sandler watercolor. I'm hoping the new Lisa Eldridge blushes, but these are going to give you a really nice wash. Now, sometimes when you're using a cream or liquid blush product, you want a thinner consistency or you want a lighter color. So one of the things you can do is mix that with either a brightening CC serum or mix it with a little bit of foundation, and that makes your consistency a little bit thinner, and these brushes are ideal for that. So this is the number 3 and the number 4. Number 4 is the angled one here, and these are synthetic. And I just think these work great for thinner consistency cheek products. This one here is the Rephr 05. This is going to be a larger undyed goat hair brush. I like to use this for blush, I mean, anywhere on the cheek really, and blend this one out. I think this is a nice versatile size. It's not the one that I reach for the most, but it is one that I enjoy using for cream products. When I'm working with cheek products, if I want something a little bit looser, but not as loose as the Katie Jane Hughes, then I reach for these. This is the Sonia G Classic Cheek Brush. This is actually one of my main go-tos for cream products on the cheek. So I love this one. I mean, look at the flex and give on this. There's flexibility in it, but there's also firmness. So you can really kind of buff that product out. I think this is pretty much like the perfect well-rounded brush for it. This rougher one is slightly smaller, but very similar. It's a little bit more pointed than the classic cheek from Sonia G. This is the rougher 18, but it's a little bit smaller. So this one also works well for that. And if you want highlight, but you don't want it, you want to kind of like buff out that highlight a little bit to make it a little bit more sheer, this is a great brush for that as well. Now moving on to eye brushes. Two of the ones I really enjoy are actually these Westman Atelier eyeshadow brushes 1 and 2. So this one here that looks a little bit more like the Arrowhead. Sorry, it's hard to read these because it's black on black. This is going to be the eyeshadow 1 brush, and this is the eyeshadow 2. And you can see compared to the Baby Blender that they are similar, but this is going to be a stippling style. So I like to use this for cream eyeshadow, kind of buffing into the crease. The Arrowhead I use for everything. It's great for laying down color. You've got the angle here so you can get like eyeliner and so forth. Keep in mind this is thick though, so you're not going to, this is going to be for like a quick wash of color type thing. Something that's really like easygoing, not detail work. But I really like both of these. Inner corner, this one also works really nicely for highlight as well. So I really enjoy these. For crease work with cream eyeshadows, most of the time I will apply like a cream or liquid eyeshadow, and I just want to buff that out with a clean brush. And I will use any of my undyed Go Hair crease brushes, but ones that I really like to use a lot, this is the Rougher 01 and this is the Rougher 27. So these are two that I reach for a lot. And this is a synthetic brush from Linda Hallberg. This is the 304. This one is a little bit more dense. So if you want to kind of buff something out a little bit more firmly, this works a little bit more so than these. These are a little bit fluffier to give you a softer wash, you know, a softer finish there. So it depends what I'm going through for, but I really like all of these. For laying down color on the lid, I really like these brushes. So this is the Sonia G Worker Pro brush and the soft shader. You can see that they are going to be similar in shape and size. The Worker Pro is a little bit more narrow and very slightly longer than the soft shader. And then we also have the Chikuhodo T7 here and the Linda Hallberg 303. So these three are all undyed Go Hair. The Linda Hallberg is synthetic, but you can see they all have a similar shape and flexibility, which allows me to put down the cream product very well. And yet there's still enough fluffiness to these that I can actually buff in the crease if I don't want to use another brush. So these are my most reach for that purpose. And then for lining, these are the two I reach for the most. This is the Chantecaille Eye Blend brush. It's a synthetic brush. It is, you can see it's kind of thick. So just, I like this for the lower lash line when I want something kind of smudged out and smoky looking. And if I want something a little bit more detailed, this is going to be the Chikuhodo T12. And this one works really well for the upper lash line as well. This one's just a little bit more precise, whereas this one, obviously because of the size, is going to give you a softer, smokier look. And then for inner corner area, I really like the Chikuhodo T8 brush. You can see this one's a little bit pointier. So this works really well to get specifically in there. You can also use this on the lower lash line, and you can put this on the outer corner because it actually has like a gradation of fiber length starting from here. You can actually use the side of this to kind of shade a darker shade in the outer corner as well. So this one's a very versatile brush. And in addition, I also really like the Rougher 12 and the Sonia G Pencil Pro. And you can see these are both a little bit more rounded. These are also great for doing something in the outer corner and for the inner corner. And again, I use the Pencil Pro for the lower lash line. The Rougher 12, I really don't, it's a little bit larger. So I use that primarily to kind of like, if you're kind of packing on color with like a stippling motion, or if you want to kind of blend out something darker on the outer corner. Those are my primary purposes for these. And then one more brush I wanted to share. This is the Sonia G Mini Base Brush. And I have actually been using this for concealer And sorry, I can't remember who it was who suggested this to me, but one of my viewers suggested this. I've been using it ever since for concealer. I've been primarily just using, one of the pen concealers. This one here is the Clé de Peau Radiant Corrector for Eyes. Put a little bit of product right here, and then I use this to smooth it out, and it's perfect. So this is a blend of synthetic and undyed goat hair, and it's fantastic. I also like to use this for cream blush as well. It's meant to be used as like a travel foundation brush and everything. It totally works for that. It's just not something I use on a regular basis for that. So for me, blush and concealer is what I use this one for. So those are all of the brushes that I reach for the most with cream products. And yeah, I really love all of them. But if I wanted to kind of just pick my very, very top favorites, it's hard. And, things that are on that list go back and forth all the time. But as of right now, if I were to kind of create my own collection of what I would want to use for cream products, these are the ones that I would reach for. So I have the Surratt foundation brush, again, because I think this brush is just great at doing everything on your face all at once. So for me, a lot of times I don't feel like, I want to do my makeup quickly and I don't want to wash a lot of brushes. So I definitely have to include this just because it's great for everything. I do wish it was a little bit softer, but honestly, it's not, it doesn't bother me if I'm using like more liquidy products. So this would be in my set. Regardless, for every day, I would have the Sonia G Mini Base just because this is really fantastic for concealer. So I'm going to include that as well. And then for other products on my face, I would include the Rephr 04, and I would use this for bronzer and contour products. For blush, I would include two different styles. So this is the Chikuhodo T3. You could also use the Rephr 17. The two of them are fairly similar. So I would use this and the Sonia G Classic Cheek. So those would be my three top face brushes, essentially. And then for eyes, again, any of the ones I mentioned are all ones that I use on a regular basis. But if I had to create my very favorite set, it would be these. So we've got the Esom V34. I would use this for blending out the crease. And then for laying product down, the Sonia G Soft Shader, my very favorite eyeshadow brush of all. And then for inner corner, outer corner kind of thing, I would use the Esom V31 or the Chikuhodo T8. I think this is a really fantastic brush. And then for lash line, typically I go for something that's not super well defined. I would take the Chantecaille Smudger or eye blend brush, sorry. And that would be my set. So again, with cream highlight and so forth, most of the time I'll actually use my finger, but I could use, any of these or the mini base brush here to kind of dab on conceal or highlight as well. So that would be my curated collection. But again, everything that I mentioned here are ones that I have and use regularly with cream products, and those would be my favorites. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. Have a great day and stay safe and healthy.